Hello everyone, welcome to another video. It is Francesco here. I hope everyone's doing really well, and I just wanted to welcome anyone that's brand new to the channel because I know a lot of people have been introduced to a few of my videos recently. So welcome, and welcome to today's video. We're going to be looking specifically at Things and Todoist. We're going to be comparing some of the features and functions between the two here on the Mac. Obviously, I'll probably do a iOS version, but the good thing about both of these experiences is they are very similar on iOS. So just before we get started, if you haven't joined the email newsletter, which we do each week, is a roundup of productivity apps and resources out there. So I'll include the link in the description for you to go away and explore because it's actually a really insightful newsletter. And I think that you'll enjoy it because you like apps like this and you want to hear all of the latest stuff. So let's start with what I'll be doing today. So I'll obviously be jumping between the two, not very fast. I'll be talking about one application and the other, and then sort of share the comparison between the two. So here is Todoist, and we're going to be starting with the structure of the experience. So in terms of structure, what I mean by that is the sort of overlay in itself, in being able to utilize certain functions like projects and tasks and things like that. So as you can see, Todoist is pretty much the same sort of function setup in terms of structure as the likes of Things. However, Todoist has a sort of open project layout. In terms of this, it's more flexible. So if you're looking to create any new project, you can obviously do that, and obviously there's no restricted access on this menu. So for example, on the Things, you've got more of a restricted access with Today, Upcoming, Anytime, Someday. You only have Inbox, Today, and Next 7 days on Todoist. All of the other functions you can create yourself. So that's really helpful in terms of being flexible. But if you want a more rigid system, then Things is great because you have this specific setup and it's actually designed to help you keep productive. So as you can see, most of Todoist's functions are hidden away inside of things like labels and filters. And also, for example, Karma and any completed tasks are all hidden away here. Whereas with Things, you've got Logbook and Trash, Someday, Anytime, all available here, as well as the additional projects here, and you can add any of the new lists down there. So the cool thing about Things is you've got this here, you've got these here, but that limits your flexibility potentially if you don't want them here. So in terms of the layout and structure, Things obviously doesn't have this next 7 day view. It has this upcoming view, which actually gives you like forever, like up until September for me, which is pretty cool. I like that. But the next 7 day view in Todoist is a little more restrictive in terms of being able to only set up your next 7 days, whereas here you can actually see everything in advance. So it really depends on what you like. Of course, that's available there, so you can actually do that. Now, a couple of the other things, the actual Things have this, so if I just minimize this quickly, you actually have this ability to create new windows. That's something that's not available inside of Todoist. You get everything embedded in one thing. So if you wanted to work on, okay, I can create to-dos based on my upcoming, and I can work on them at the same time, then you can do that. Whereas with Todoist, you can't really do that just because of the way that it's set up. So I'm just going to move over. So it's just going to be a bit awkward now for a second. Just going to switch them around. There we go. So the other thing you can do is you can see archived projects down here in Todoist. So in terms of the structure, you can see that there, and you can quickly tap that. I have no archived. However, if you wanted to quickly get to that, that is available there, which is pretty good. The other thing as well is inside of Todoist, if you complete a task, you don't have this trash. In Trash, you can empty it. It's very similar to a project management application, which I quite like. And even inside of Trash, they've got this tags function too. So that's something that's not available inside of Todoist. You've got view completed tasks. Anyway, I'll talk more about this in the next bit. Let's move on to the ability in terms of task input. So let's start with the likes of Things. Let's move it over to Things. So let's just go to the Today view. What you can do here is you can obviously add a deadline. So if I create a new task there, you can add a deadline here, which is very handy, and obviously you can span up at any time you want, which is great. You can add a checklist function, so the checklist appears just below the to-do, so bread, water, milk, and that's quite nice because it appears just above there, and of course you can move them around, which is very nice. You've also got this evening. So for example, if you wanted to highlight something that was upcoming, then you've got this evening, which appears there. That's something that Todoist does not have, although Todoist you can assign times. I'm just going to jump back over to it. You've got add reminder as well, so you can add a specific reminder to a time, which is very handy, and of course it will nudge you on whatever device you have it on. And you can add to some day straight from there. So the actual functions are pretty easy. Now, when I was actually pre-reviewing this before it came out, I wasn't sure because, so Todoist, one of Todoist's real functions is being able to add intelligent input. So if I typed in today at 11 or 1 a.m., that task would associate to that time, and it's much more advanced than that as well. But if you want to access that on the natural language on a to-do in terms of inside of here, you can have that there, and tomorrow, which pops up. So it's actually a very helpful way to access everything. So you can actually have, you can't have things like every 2 days. Yes, you can, sorry, in 2 days you can have, but you can have it this evening, yeah. So for example, you can just play around with the natural language. However, that's not available there. So the one other thing you can't do is, so for example, if I put a shopping list, the other thing you can't do is from the actual task input associate it to a project, which is a bit of a shame. You actually have to drag it over. So for example, if I wanted it in there, then now it's inside of here and I can have it there. So that's the only way that you can get it into a project, which isn't too hard. It's not too complicated. Or if you wanted to create it, you would create it inside of your project anyway. Obviously, that's not too much of a real big issue. So then there's no project association there. There's also no priority association. So obviously you can set a deadline. So a deadline could be tomorrow. So you actually have it, okay, I'm going to complete it today, but the deadline is this day, which is quite nice because Todoist doesn't have that. However, you can't associate a specific importance to the task. Not that I know of yet. However, of course, you can use these functions here, so you can actually have high importance up here and filter things like that. So for example, I'll just go in here. So if you had the logbook, if you had the today and you had high function there. So you can add that tag to it. I'll just put high importance. And of course, if you wanted to pick out the high important task, you can. So there is a level of priority that you can add. You can't assign something to someone. You can, of course, share something once it's ready. So for example, if I wanted to double click, I could share it, but I don't think that does a great deal. You can obviously use a lot of shortcuts there. And obviously, one thing you can do is jump over to your project that you have it in, which is quite nice. It's a small little thing there. So jumping over to Todoist, in terms of a task input, what are the things that are beneficial? So for example, if I wanted to use the intelligent input, so today at 11 a.m., get the shopping, you can see that it obviously detects that. You can add things like priority levels from here, the 3 core priority levels. You can assign it to a project, so if I wanted to add it to health, because shopping's health, you can obviously add reminders, and the reminders is a little more advanced. So you've got email, push, SMS. You can actually edit the reminder functions. And if you're these are obviously premium functions, but location as well. So that won't be available, the reminders function inside of the freemium. However, it is available to do if you have that. You also have labels as well. Labels is like tags inside of things. However, with labels, they're a bit more flexible. You can actually add as many tags as you like, which I can explain in a bit. However, that's a premium feature inside of Todoist, so that's just something to note as well. You can add as many labels as you like and associate it to only one project. Of course, you can add quick comments well, another premium feature. Quick comments allows you to add any quick comments, but if you wanted to add any detailed comments, you can click in and actually add anything from files to voice recordings and things like that. And that's actually handy for being able to associate teams, so assigning tasks. So you can actually assign certain levels of tasks, which is great inside of Todoist. So if you're looking for a more project-based experience in terms of like being able to project manage with teams, then Todoist is better. There's no checklist function. So for example, if I wanted to have that checklist ability inside of there, that's not really possible. I use the comments where I can. And you can use this obviously, like bread, milk. But again, that's like not very strategical in terms of way. I think they'll probably add that in future. You can't add a deadline, as I was saying, and only you can add only sort of dates and times, which is good because like this, for example, I couldn't add my, so for example, the way that I work, as you can see, is plan based on time. So I like to have like chronologically what my tasks are for the day. However, with this, you can't associate it to a time. You can add a reminder with a time which will appear at that time, but it won't appear and chronologically order it. It will just nudge you when that appears, when you need to be nudged for it. So the other additional things when it comes to quick adding tasks, of course, Todoist have the ability to add a quick task. I believe for me it's Control L, and as you can see they've updated this for Mac recently, so you can quickly add a task and assign it very speedily, very fast. And you can obviously add it from there, so it will associate that to that day straight away. You can quick add a feature here, so let me just check what I set it as. So you can actually set the preferences over here, so quick entry was Control Y, so if I press Control Y, it comes up very nicely, and I actually prefer this to the Todoist one, only because it's slightly richer. On the Todoist one, so just get it up again, Command L, sorry, Command L it is. This is nice, but I slightly like this one more. So yeah, there's them side by side. I like the notes function just here and the ability to change your project. So if you actually wanted to add something to a project straight away, you can. So there is that ability to do that. And of course, I prefer the language input here. So that's the primary reason that I prefer it just above it. But I prefer the design and the experience of the quick add on things. So it's very the same, much the same on the iOS version. They look very similar. Todoist is slightly, so I just add inbox task to there. But on the things, it's probably the most similar. So moving on to projects now. Projects are very important when it comes to there. So creating a project inside of things is very easy. So for example, you can create an area or a project. So an area is a group defining your projects and to-dos based on it. So I put family as an example, and a project is a certain amount of things. So on a project inside of things, you can add a lot of things. You can add headers, you can add tags to a project, you can add a completion date, and a deadline date, and you can actually move it, repeat it, duplicate it, delete it. Wow, that rhymed. So for example, if I put finish Todoist versus things review, obviously I can add notes to that. So complete soon. I don't know. You can add a when. So I want to complete it or do it tomorrow, for example. But I want to add a deadline, which is next week is when I'll post it, 7 days left. You can add tags. So if I wanted to have high level priority, yes, I can. And of course, you can duplicate it and have it all there. So the way to add to-dos is just by hit this plus button and all of the to-dos start adding there. So if I wanted to associate that to that new project to a, there we go. It's actually assigned it as a, so for example, if I wanted to assign it as a project, there we go. I've actually added that project to the area so that you can actually add more to do. So if I wanted to add an example to do of film the footage, then it should appear inside of families now. Oh, you can click in and see all of the tasks that below that. So it's actually a lot more detailed. So if I move over to Todoist, if I create a new project, the new project obviously, let's just the film Todoist, I don't know. A project sits more of a list on side of here, so if I ever have a project, I tend to just have it nested inside one of my lists. Of course, once you click in, you can create things like, you have to self-made headers. So for example, to-do list. So if I made a to-do list inside there and I wanted to add a self-made header, you want to add these colons, and of course it pins it, and you simply add tasks after that. Now, as I was saying just before, you can add stacks as well. So for example, I've got stacks here for all of the projects that I have, and then inside them I have certain to-dos. And I've been using breakdowns. So for example, down there you'll see all of the to-dos for that subtask, the subtasks for the to-dos for that day. So I'm using it in more of an advanced function, but if you're a brand new user and you wanted to create a project, you can, and it's all available from here. When you're creating one, of course, you can add an association. You only get like 8 with these on the freemium, but you can add a color. And of course, if you want, you can add an emoji, which is pretty cool. You can indent them and not indent them, so that's a little bit of a tweak. And of course, the benefit to using a project inside of Todoist is you can assign to other people, which you cannot inside of. You can obviously share it, but I don't think that sharing function's as strong. So you can invite from another project and collaborate with other new people and assign tasks to them. And you've got a host of other functions. Be able to sort by all of these 4 metrics, import and export from a template, and also email tasks in and associate it to a project calendar feed. Something that I'll mention in the next few features. So if I just click archive on that, it becomes available down here. I just want to delete it though, as it's officially not useful. So logging tasks is another important thing. So for Todoist, there's no like logbook like Things has, but you know, when you complete tasks, they sort of hide away up here. So if you click Karma, view all completed tasks, it gives you like an activity log of your day. So for example, it will see all of these ones. Okay, I did yoga this morning, I packed for France. You can see completed tasks, added tasks, updated tasks, uncompleted, deleted, and added comments. So the actual level of detail is quite useful. And if you want to filter per collaborator or per project, that's available there too. So that's quite a handy feature. I'm not too much of a fan of it. I don't use it as much, but I have heard people that want to use a completed function to be able to view their entire like progress of the day. So this sort of looks a bit better. I mean, I don't like the fact that it's on here and the fact that it's there. But for example, all of these are done in May, so you can see that. And if you had high-level tasks, you could be like, oh yeah, I remember when I watched Interstellar in May, or collected papers, or created the Things 3 review, which is quite cool. So actually having that list there, and actually associating it to work. So work, I uploaded the meeting notes, yay, I did that in May, and the actual date there, which is pretty cool. And home as well. And you can actually click in and see more of the details on each of them. So it doesn't fully delete them yet. So that's quite a nice thing to have in Logbook. And of course you have the trash, which isn't a Logbook. It's more of a deleted area. So you can do 2 things to a task. You can well, I'll go back to one of the day. You can do 2 things to a task. You can complete them or delete them. So again, rhyming. That's brilliant. So just going back to the logging of tasks, Todoist has a beneficiary feature called Karma, which many people like, and it actually gives you some statistics based on all of the stuff you've completed. And that's pretty cool. That's a thing that a lot of users like. You get something called a daily streak and a weekly streak. So you can actually change your goals. I've got mine set at 5 and 30 per week it is. So you can actually have this streak going on and actually monitor your progress. So it's actually giving you sort of some metrics based on it, and it's sort of like a history breakdown and any archive tasks he has. So Todoist is more flexible in this area, but it's more hidden in the experience, and Things is more sort of obvious with it, but doesn't go into too much detail. But again, this is only a first version of Things, so I'm sure they're going to be doing that there. So just before I wanted to move on, search is also a function of logging tasks. So being able to find something in search. So for example, if I was to cold, so I could find the cold shower fast, and it opens that up, which is nice. And that search works really well because, for example, if I wanted to find cold and I wanted to go and completed tasks, then I could find all of the previous times I've mentioned cold in any of my tasks. The same across here. They have this really beautiful little quick find, and it's the same on iOS too. And if I put Interstellar, which is a completed task, it would bring me to that, and I could go into that task. But if I put shopping list, it would bring up all of that, including tags as well, if they're mentioned as well. So if you had a really busy shopping list, then you can have that. And of course, that star comes up because it's in today. So that's just a note there. They don't have a starring function as of yet. So when it comes to integrations, things is pretty thin. So they've got no integration for things like IFTTT and other services like that you can connect up, like email. However, you have the ability to connect to your calendar. I love this feature because, for example, if I went on to, tomorrow, these two things would appear, and things like that would appear, which is very cool. Like a how would you say it? It would be like an event list, and I love that. I think that's such a great function inside of things. So the calendar function they've nailed. You can also integrate Siri. So if I just go up to the top and preferences, you can have like the ability to show reminders. So for example, if you went, "Hey Siri, can you add this?" It will add it to reminders, and then it will bring it to reminders to things. So if you're out and about and you do actually want to clip tasks using your voice, you can. That's something that Todoist doesn't have. However, you can use an IFTTT to organize that, and I'll try and include the link in the description. Todoist actually have a host of integrations. I'm actually going to include the link in the description because it's actually so intricate, because there are so many different things that connect up with it. Obviously, natively it integrates with a calendar function, and of course, like email as well, occasionally, with being able to email tasks in. But it also integrates with the likes of, I will read a few out: Google Drive, Dropbox, Google Maps, Apple Maps, Calendar Sync, Kin, Slack, Trevor, AI, that is, OurStack, IFTTT, Zapier, Workflow, Quadro. There's really quite a few, and that's because they've created a really strong, more of a open source with the API. So that's probably going to come to things 3 in the future. Obviously, Siri and calendar integration is a good start, but obviously I can imagine they're going to be pushed to make more efforts for that. So when it comes to layouts, so layouts is a slightly different structure because it's talking more about the design. So let's start with Todoist. I personally was drawn to Todoist for many years because of the flexibility, and they also have this themes function. So if you go into settings, I think it's in preferences. Yeah, there it is. Themes. So you can get these themes that give you this really nice experience. You can change them and sort of make them feel like your own. There are some premium ones here, so the star ones are premium, just to note. The other thing you can do is sort of make it your own custom experience, is you change the start page. So that's something that many people don't do, but you can actually do that. I just keep it as today. You can actually have a custom query, which is essentially like a filter to all of your tasks. So with preferences and other things, you can actually change the date and time, and actually modify what sort of reminders you get on different devices. But in terms of customization, things is less customizable because you can't change the menu as much. However, I think the design of it is probably the best personal productivity app out there. Now, it's a winner in terms of what it looks like. It's minimal. It sort of removes everything. I love the way that you can add a task and everything just falls out. So the feel of it is good as well. However, I know that Todoist are working hard to sort of develop their experience in terms of layouts. They're probably going to be looking at adapting the layout soon because it's been quite stagnant for about 1.5 years. They're also running projects like Todoist boards on Windows, so that's something to keep note of for the future. So in terms of layouts, things wins a little more than Todoist, but something that, again, you shouldn't base your experience off. You should base it more off functions. So in terms of usability, what is things like, I think things, after playing around with it for a week and a half now, the iOS and this version are more interactive than I ever thought. They're probably the most interactive to-do list apps I've ever played with. You've got that checklist ability, drag and drop, which is really nice. And some of the smaller iOS design functions are probably a lot better than the Todoist experience. Now, it has a lot more animations, to have a lot more stuff, but over time, I'll start to be able to give you a better opportunity. I know that Todoist works so well in terms of being a hardcore experience. There's not too much animations. They're sort of working on that slowly, I think. However, it's simple and it works really well offline and online. So that ability in terms of usability, I much prefer the Todoist experience so far. But in terms of like feel, I prefer Things, if you can understand where I'm coming from. So moving on to Calendar. Calendar is obviously a vital importance. The upcoming function in Things allows you to have everything, and it syncs really well to your calendar. So whenever I changed an event, it quickly updated it, but can't be modified. So it's not two-way. So for example, if I clicked into this, it would take me to the calendar, not be able to allow me to edit it in any way. However, with Todoist, I haven't actually set it up yet, but they have a two-way integration now with Google Calendar. So you can actually have that, or if you just want a one-way integration with iOS Calendar, you can. And I'll include both ways how to do that in the description. So as you can imagine, the calendar functions are really pushing it out. So in terms of like pricing, so what sort of stuff do you get? So in Things, the macOS version is $49, which is quite high. Obviously, I'll include all of the pricing in the description. You've also, if you want an iOS license, that's only for an iPhone, it's $9.99. And for an iPad, it's $19.99. So let's say you wanted, and these are all one-off, so if you wanted the whole ecosystem, Mac, iPhone, iPad, that's going to cost you about $80, which is about 65 quid in the UK. And if you want the Todoist experience for premium, it is $29 per year. So for example, if you wanted just to have that one-off payment and it's sort of over, then Things is a good option. But there obviously is a freemium to Todoist, so you actually have the ability to get used to it, understand it, and then move on if you wish. Obviously, most of the features are capped, like labels, reminders, things like that are all capped inside of Todoist. However, I think you get 15-day free trial now inside of Things, so you can actually play around with everything, download it on different devices. Apart from, you get 15-day free trial on Mac. So that sort of moves us on to the availability side of stuff. So Things is only available on iPhone, iPad, and Mac OS, and you've also got a Watch OS application too. Todoist is available on 10 plus platforms. So you've got iOS, Android, Windows, Mac. I think you have Linux as well. You have to check on that one. And some extension functions, so you can have them inside of Gmail, Chrome, Firefox, etc. And obviously, for both of those, I'll include all of the links in the description. Moving on to just the final thing I wanted to mention, the sort of storage abilities. So many people forget about this being offline and online. The one thing that I most enjoy about Todoist is the offline sync. The offline sync works so well and has been probably the most consistent experience I've had across all of my devices. They always seem to sync really well and capture all of the tasks that I add in. So that's one of the things that has drawn me to Todoist. Saying that, over the last 2 weeks, the Things Cloud, which is the storage that backs up Things Cloud, Things itself, is impressive. I really think that's one of the fastest services out there. So that's something that I've been impressed with so far. Something that I probably need to do more testing on. So just bear with me in time. I'll probably do a full review in the future. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this overview. I hope it gave you a better idea. So my finishing words with this would be that there's no real overall winner. It's more of the sort of experience you want. So Todoist, I would recommend more for those who wanted a really advanced, simple to-do list application that works both for your personal and professional experiences. One that really works for you with teams and is fairly easy to get started with, and something that you will like in terms of layout and design. Now, Things, I would really round this up as the best visual personal to-do list experience I've experienced. It still has a long way to go. It's not ideal for teams. It's pretty much impractical for teams. However, if you want to have a personal experience and don't need any integrations, you're comfortable with the GTD abilities of this setup, and you just want to get your hands stuck in with a really well-designed application, then this is probably your bet. Both of these work really well with GTD, so you can actually modify that if you like, and that's something that many people miss out you should definitely try doing the GTD setup with these guys. But overall, I personally will carry on using Todoist because I find the experience really easy to use, and I've sort of built a base there of tasks and things upcoming. However, I have been checking out things on a daily basis since its launch, just because I want to understand all the functionality, all the experience, and what their plans are for the future. But overall, I think that both of these applications are great to use. If you're looking for a sort of one-off, get everything paid out for straight away, and a really well-designed one, then Things is your bet. If you want a really advanced function that you have to pay yearly for, then Todoist is your bet too. Anyway guys, wow, that was a long video. I hoped you enjoyed it because I enjoyed covering it, much like I do enjoy covering other applications. So if you enjoyed this overview, if you found it helpful to your choices, please do pop a comment in the description, because I might do more of these. I might do these for like Evernote versus OneNote, etc. And I would also like to do them for other time tracking applications and sub applications like that, because it's quite easy to do. I like doing them. Of course, my voice is almost dead, but I just wanted to say thank you very much for coming by. If you haven't subscribed, do subscribe because I put out regular videos. And if you haven't joined the e-newsletter, there's a regular e-newsletter about productivity apps. There's no spam, nothing like that. It's literally just informative stuff that I think you'll enjoy. So anyway, guys, make sure to have a great week. Keep productive, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. Cheers.